It's now time for Remember When with Uncle John. John Guess, Ouachita County's resident storyteller and local historian. Sit back now and enjoy a walk down memory lane as John recalls the days of yesteryear in his own unique way. You never know, some of it might even be true. So here's Uncle John, along with his trusty sidekick, Kelly Blair.
Back on Remember When with Uncle John. Well, we did it. We survived another Monday, rolling along here in a Tuesday. And, well, John, we talk about, Remember When and memories that bless and burn and all that kind of good stuff. We got somebody else we need to remember today.
Well, we lost, Camden. Of course, he hadn't lived here in a few years, but Mr. Roy Ledbetter passed away a few days ago. Everybody knows Roy, who Roy was. He was the president of Highland Industrial Park. But before that, he was Camden football coach in the 50s and early 60s. He was hired by legendary coach Sam Coleman, 1954. Came to work as an assistant to Sam Coleman, and Sam Coleman retired in 1957, and Roy became the track coach and the head football coach.
That's a hard act to follow, but from what I've heard, Mr. Ledbetter could handle it.
And he taught history and civics and biology, and he was a very intimidating man.
Yes.
He stayed Camden football coach up into the 60s till he went to work for Highland Industries, out across the river, and he built Highland Industrial Park into the largest privately owned industrial park in the United States.
There you go.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely. And see, I knew he was out there at Highland because when I was the sports editor at a local newspaper in a past life, I got to call Mr. Ledbetter and interview him as to why they were closing the Highland golf course at one point. And it didn't stay shut down long or anything, but you talk about an intimidating guy. I knew I was in trouble when my boss was kind of giggling when he said, "Hey, this is a sports story since it involves a golf course. You get to call Roy Ledbetter and ask him why they're closing Highland Golf Course." I'm like, "Oh, gee whiz, great." So we kind of did the rope-a-dope. He tried to avoid the questions a couple of times and intimidate me off the phone a couple of times, and I just came at him at a different angle, and after a while he was like, "You're not half bad at your job, are you?" And I was like, "I appreciate the compliments."
Well, I was working offshore and when I was 22 years old, and I was tired of that lifestyle, and Mr. Bill Johnson from out at Harmony Grove had a service station in Chittister, a gas station in Chittister, and he had been a referee, football referee, basketball referee around here for years and knew Roy personally. He called Mr. Ledbetter on the phone, and the next day I had a job at Highland Resources.
Nice.
But Mr. Roy was taught Sunday school at the First Methodist Church here in Camden for decades. He had a daughter, Lisa, was our nurse out at LTV when I worked out there. She's passed away a couple of years ago. And he's got a son, Sam, who is an attorney in Little Rock. He's a very dear friend of my brother's. But Mr. Roy was a very powerful, very, very business-savvy person.
Well-respected and feared.
Well-respected, and he brought a lot of industry in here. He wheeled and dealed and got a lot of people jobs around here. A lot of people, you either liked him or you loathed him because of, he was a hard man. But he was in a hard business, came up in a hard way, but he was a good man. Done a lot for Camden. Done a lot for the East Industrial Park out there. Like I said, there's a lot of people got jobs that they wouldn't have right now if it hadn't been for him.
A lot of those people that they say, boy, he was a hard man and he took a hard stance and a hard line about a thing, that's the guys that get the hard jobs done.
That's right. And he done me a favor one time, and apparently he never forgot it. I told his son about it, and he couldn't believe it till he asked him, and he said, yeah, he did that. So, but he was, like I said, a well-respected man. He's been, he's 90 years old, but he was a good man and somebody that done a lot for us around here. And a lot of people's got jobs that they wouldn't have if it hadn't been for Mr. Ledbetter.
There you go. Hey, that's going to wrap up Remember When with Uncle John here for today. But we do want to thank all of our sponsors that allow us to come out here and talk about things to remember when, including ProMed Ambulance Service.
1-800-634-0436. Give them a call. Get signed up.
Also, Sherwin-Williams House Paint at 315 Jefferson Street right here in Camden. Give them a holler at 836-8125. Talk to Greg Bradshaw and his staff. They'll get you all hooked up for all your interior and exterior painting needs.
And go down to the Shopper's Guide and see our good friend J.J. Lindsay if you need some stationery or some printing needs done.
Hey, if somebody tells you, man, I heard they were talking about Roy Ledbetter on the Remember When with Uncle John and I missed it, tell them, hey, you can go back and listen to it on like Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find podcasts on YouTube, and you can find it right there on YesRadioWorks.com, the Facebook page. Not .com. Go look on the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll see you tomorrow, John.
See you tomorrow, Kelly.
You've been listening to Remember When with Uncle John on Y95. This broadcast can be heard each weekday morning at 6:45 on South Arkansas's favorite station, Y95.